The sky above Outpost Haven 3 split open at dawn, not with sunlight, but with the descending shadows of thousands of alien warships, vast, shimmering structures that looked grown rather than built, humming with a resonance that rattled windows and hearts alike. Soldiers scrambled to walls, alarms shrieked across the settlement, and terrified families clutched each other as everyone braced for annihilation. The ships moved in perfect formation, silent and deliberate, blotting out the horizon with their sheer magnitude. It felt like the end of everything. But on a small balcony overlooking the chaos, 8-year-old Elias Winters stood motionless. Not afraid, but strangely calm, as if he had been expecting this moment. While adults shouted orders and armed defenses, Elias whispered, "They came back," his voice barely audible beneath the rising panic. For he alone knew that this was no invasion or demand for surrender or act of conquest. Yesterday, beyond the fences where he wasn't supposed to wander, he had met a lonely alien child and shared with him the only toy he truly loved, a glowing red hoverball. And though Elias thought it was just an innocent act of kindness, the universe had taken notice. Now, as the colossal fleet lowered toward the cliffs, shaking the ground beneath everyone's feet, humanity prepared for war. Though, while one small boy understood the truth, they hadn't come to destroy the colony. They had come for him. Elias Winters had never been the kind of child who stayed inside the lines. Adults drew for him. Fences, rules, and warnings only made his curiosity itch stronger, especially on a barren moon like Lero 7, where every day felt the same shade of dull gray. While the outpost buzzed with the routine hum of machines and the chatter of scientists, Elias slipped through a loose panel in the perimeter fence with his red hoverball bouncing between his hands. The cliffs outside whispered with strange, melodic winds, and he followed them deeper into the rocky silence until he spotted something perched alone on a stone outcropping, a small alien figure, its skin glimmering like shifting starlight. For eyes set in an expression of such profound loneliness that it made Elias stop breathing. He should have screamed, should have run. But instead, he felt the same instinct that made him approach stray animals back on Earth. A simple, gentle urge to say, "You don't have to be alone." So he bounced his hoverball once, then rolled it toward the creature. The alien flinched, hesitated, then reached out with trembling curiosity as the ball glowed warmly beneath its touch. A soft trill escaped its throat, a sound, equal parts fear and hope, and before long the two were playing, laughing, nay, and trading clumsy gestures that needed no translation. When Elias finally had to return to the outpost, he pressed the hoverball into the alien's hands without a second thought. He never imagined that gift would summon an entire empire the next morning. When the alien fleet descended upon Lero 7, humanity expected devastation. Yet what emerged from the shimmering ships was an organized legion that moved with ritualistic precision, their armor glowing with swirling patterns that seemed to shift like liquid starlight. At their head strode beings far taller and more imposing than the small creature Elias had met. Warriors, diplomats, priests, and commanders radiating authority. But all of them stepped aside in perfect unison as a much smaller figure came forward, clutching a red hoverball and trilling with excitement. It was the same alien child Elias had played with the day before, though now surrounded by honor guards and wearing a shimmering mantle that suggested far more importance than his small stature implied. The translators clicked to life as a towering commander approached the humans and introduced the tiny creature as Air Prince T. Colley of the star Yoon, the sole young successor to a civilization spanning dozens of star systems. The prince, it turned out, had never once been allowed to interact freely with anyone his own age, surrounded instead by duty, protocol, and suffocating expectations. His brief escape the previous afternoon had been a rare moment of rebellion, one that led him directly to Elias and the fragile, unexpected joy of playing like a normal child. In the Star Union, acts of unprovoked kindness toward the royal heir were considered sacred gestures, binding their people to a pact of honor that had shaped their diplomatic traditions for thousands of years. To share an item valued by the giver, especially one tied to joy and innocence, was a gesture so rare it demanded the full attention of the royal council. Elias, without knowing it, had performed one of the highest symbolic acts in the alien culture, offering friendship without expectation. And so the Armada had come, not to destroy, but to repay, as Tockley chirped excitedly and bounced the hoverball. The commander translated the alien's melodic vocalizations. Elias had offered him something precious, something freely given. Something he had never received before: simple companionship. And according to ancient tradition, the Star Union was bound to protect and uplift any species whose member performed such a gesture. While soldiers lowered their weapons in disbelief, diplomats struggled to comprehend the magnitude of what they were being offered. This wasn't merely protection, it was full integration into an interstellar alliance, access to unimaginable technologies, and recognition from one of the most powerful empires known in the galaxy. Yet at the center of the diplomatic chaos stood two children who saw none of that. Elias ran toward Tockley, trilled happily, and embraced him with multiple arms before dragging him forward to play again, much to the horror of nearby guards. The hoverball bounced between them, echoing across the new silent battlefield where moments before humanity had prepared to die. Towers of armored warriors watched with reverence, kneeling as their prince laughed for the first time in recorded memory. And as the two children played beneath the silver cliffs of Lyra 7, something extraordinary happened. Two civilizations began to stitch their futures together. Not through treaties or threats, but through the pure, unfiltered bond of friendship. When the alien fleet finally lifted from the cliffs of Lyra 7, leaving shimmering trails in the sky, the outpost stood in stunned silence. Soldiers slowly lowered rifles, diplomats exhaled, and parents embraced their children, but all eyes drifted to the simplest scene. Vaults. Elias and Tockley sitting side by side in the dust, sharing the last quiet moments of play before duty reclaimed the young alien prince. No treaty signed that day mattered more than the bond they had formed. Tockley pressed the hoverball back into Elias's hands, a promise, a memory, a vow. And though the prince would soon vanish into the stars, the message he left behind reshaped humanity's destiny. That kindness freely given is the strongest force in the galaxy. As the final ship disappeared into the horizon, Lyra 7 understood a truth that would echo for generations. One small act of compassion had changed everything.